sometimes people will get almost like addicted to not experiencing any sort of like upset, discomfort. And so they're constantly trying to be in this quote unquote healed state. Welcome back to another episode of Sessions for the Soul.
Yes, welcome back. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. We're just cruising with the year, with our episodes, with the podcast.
With everything. Oh my gosh, this brings me to, you know what we need to talk about? Is
like what?
Our 3-month program.
Oh yes, if you're listening, we're probably like end of September at this episode.
At this episode, I'm thinking this is like maybe we just started the program or we're just about to start, or we can position this to where we're just about to start.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have an exciting 3-month program coming out for all of you. And the best part about it is it's as much or as little as commitment as you want to bring to it. We wanted to give a really accessible offer. And so it's really just about tuning into the season and how to best support and facilitate the transitions in seasons so that, you know, for those of us who maybe kind of lose motivation as the winter arrives or fall out of our habits and kind of get feel less like motivated or productive or feel just like, oh, I really hate this time of year. This is designed to really like help you move intentionally through it, stay connected to yourself and really I want to use the word capitalize, even though that's a word I don't love, capitalize on like how to attune to the season to best facilitate those shifts, if that makes sense.
Yes. And if this is, so we're starting on September 22nd, but we're also going to be having like open enrollment for each 4-week period. So if this episode comes out a little bit after September 22nd, just know that you can join for month 2 and month 3. Which is very exciting. And I was also thinking about how like sometimes the fall season, like it's so exciting at first. And then you get a couple weeks in and you're like, oh no, we're heading into like a time of darkness. Maybe like we live in a very wet climate, so it's very rainy, gets a little depressing. You start losing motivation, start isolating, like all the things that a lot of people struggle with. And so this is just kind of creating a container to have community, to have accountability, and to get into like some really good rhythms throughout the fall season to set you up for a really beautiful winter season as well. So I'm very excited. We're going to have like so many fun things in there. And doing like as much or as little as you want is so nice because we get it. Like some people have more capacity than others or more time or whatever it is. So we're going to structure it in a way that's going to work for
everyone. Yes, for you, for everyone. And like a lot of programs I feel like are intimidating to sign up for because people think like, oh, I'm going to have to like show up every week for a call. I'm going to have to like really, I don't know if I can fit this in, but this is more designed to like, we're going to do one call every like in the 4-week period, just once a month. But like, of course, the community is there for you to ask us questions. We're here to support you. And all of the like material and content will be made available to you when you join. So you get to choose like, you know, this ritual or this practice doesn't really resonate with me, but this does, or like these are journal prompts that feel really like potent for where I'm at right now. And maybe these ones aren't. So it's really just about like facilitating where you're at and what's true for you. So check it out. And if you have any questions for us, reach out.
Yes.
We're here.
I'm so excited. And it's going to be it's very reasonably priced, friends. Like it's very reasonable.
Yes.
Like time commitment, all of it. I'm so excited about it. And we're both so excited to co-host it, but also to participate in it. Yeah, it's going to be so nice. It's going to be like so cozy.
Yes. Honestly, I'm so excited to participate in it because like one of the things that I've really been feeling is like bringing back certain routines in my life that like have kind of felt out of place for a while, just because it's really hard for me to stay regimented on like my journaling, my certain things when I'm traveling. And I just feel like until July, I had been gone majority of the year.
Yeah.
And so like 6 months of the year, 7 months of the year, just like poof, gone.
Yeah.
Um, just with like movement and traveling and being in different places. And so as I've been home, settled, like nesting, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm really craving this,
Yeah.
but not necessarily like taking the time to like dive back in. Summer has been busy. And so that's really what this is for too, is like,
Yeah.
okay, we're back in the slower season. Let's bring some intention to our stillness.
Yeah.
So I love it.
It's going to be so good. I'm very excited.
Yes, me too. Yay.
Well, today, this episode, we're going to be talking about just the concept of how healing doesn't always mean that you're like regulated all the time. Regulated meaning like feeling at ease and feeling super peaceful and like you never get stressed anymore. You never get triggered. Like I think there's a lot of, and we've covered this in different episodes, but there's a lot of these like misconceptions around that where if you do the nervous system work or work through different patterns that you're wanting to break free from, that doesn't mean that it's gone forever. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're human.
Absolutely. Like as you were saying that, I'm just thinking about how like I think are so destination oriented. And that's like a big part of it is like, oh, I've healed. I'm at the destination. So that means that I'm not going to encounter these discomforts of being human anymore. And that's just simply not even, I mean, girl, if that was the case,
Yeah.
I think more people would be motivated to like go on these journeys.
Yeah.
But the reality is we still experience like the human experience.
Yeah. I think, gosh, I might not be recalling this like in its truest form, but in a book I'm reading, the same book I've been reading for the last year, by Gabor Mate. He talks about how like the concept of healing. I'm fairly certain he talks about it in terms of like becoming whole and allowing like exploring like what the most authentic parts of yourself are and how to like support that and let it like really bloom. And I really liked that perspective, if that is even the perspective that was offered in the book. I might just be making shit up right now. I don't know.
Honestly, you're writing your own book.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah. But I like that perspective because it's not like you're running away from something. It's not like you're trying to fix some sort of a like pathogen within you. Like it's an approach that just feels so much more whole.
Yeah.
And from like a space of inspiration of what you want to become versus what you want to run away from.
Yes. And that is medicine. That's powerful. And we kind of touched on that, I think, in the last episode a little bit, just this concept of like running to versus running away from. But I love that. I think that like when we look at what we want to cultivate in life and like what really being like healed or whole is, it's like crowding in, right? Like what can I bring in or what can I like nurture and facilitate in my life that is supportive of like what feels good and what feels better. And how can I also, I think like, and we're going to explore this in this conversation today, is like when I've done this work and I'm still presented with challenges because that's part of life, how do I show up? And like who am I in those moments versus the unhealed? Like we talk about this a lot, and like I would say more of like, you know what? Pause. We need someone to find the language for me to articulate what the fuck I do, because the way that I like struggle through it every time from like in indigenous medicine and in like ancient wisdom, but it's also like an ethereal, like I don't even know what it is. You guys, someone drop in the comments below what it is I even do, because I don't know. But anyway, we talk about the highest version, the highest good, and like the lower expression of ourselves. And when I like the lower expression is the person who hasn't done the work and doesn't want to do the work and is like living in fight or flight and triggered and not really consciously moving through things. And the highest expression is like showing up. I mean, I would say like argue the highest expression of ourselves I don't think we will reach in our lives. Like that's not possible. But the highest good, the highest expression is like the person that consciously moves through everything with intention and like has done the work.
Yeah.
And the difference between like when you have like healed or when you are healing, which version of you is
Mm-hmm.
present in triggers and in hard moments, and how we show up in those things. And I think it's easier to show up closer to the highest good when, you know, things are feeling good and when we have
Yeah.
cultivated a little bit of that, like what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I think about trauma. So like trauma is coming up for me right now of if you've experienced a traumatic event or a series of traumatic events in your life at any point, sometimes it can be framed. And I talked about this recently, probably on TikTok, I don't know, but like this concept of how it's framed in a way like you need to expel it from your body, or it's like a pathogen that needs to be like fixed or cured or whatever it is, and that's not necessarily it. So if you think of like trauma healing or chronic stress healing or whatever that looks like for you, it's not something that's like within you that is horribly wrong. I think it's so helpful to look at it as like we just need to like complete this cycle. Like there's some stuff that's unresolved here that we need to, you know, work on unwinding our body or softening or changing our thought patterns that have been like deeply ingrained because of XYZ thing. And so it's not looking at those things that have happened to us or that we've witnessed or experienced as like these horrible, horrible things that we need to like shove in a dark closet and now I'm healed. But it's like, how can I work with it rather than against it? And I guess coming at it from a place of like, how can I approach this with like rewriting my story or like writing a new chapter or repatterning my thoughts or my body. And that for me has been super helpful. And I know for a lot of other people too that I've encountered, it's been so helpful to have that reframe, because healing, like the term healing and the work and all of that is like so confusing, I think sometimes on like the message that it gets across. And yeah, like you were just talking about too, like you're still human. You're still going to experience triggers. You're still going to experience like things that are going to push your buttons or that are going to bring up past experiences or traumas that you've experienced that are horribly painful. But the process of healing is that you get to respond differently. You get to show up differently. You get to recover differently.
Yes, absolutely. I'm having like 17 thoughts right now about like how I like, because you said so much good stuff there. And it's exactly that. Like, this is the human experience, right? And there's no, like, I think that's one of the traps of the modern world is that, like, we think that mitigating all of the things that, and just like my disclaimer, my every episode disclaimer, being that, like, obviously there are situations in which, like, there's going to be different circumstances, but in the scope of which we're talking about this right now, like, there are a lot of situations in life where maybe we are uncomfortable, or we are triggered, or that are like not our favorite. And one of the like traps of some of these maybe less highly expressed, like the lower expression is like, well, just get rid of that person in your life.
Yeah.
Just don't get into situations that trigger you, and then you won't ever have to experience that bad emotion. It's like, well, there's actually, if we're being triggered, and again, like not obviously like in like really intense traumatizing situations, like in maybe difficult conversations or whatever, like obviously there are those situations that, like, yeah, get rid of that person in your life.
Sure. Yeah.
But you know, there might be an invitation there, or we might be invited to be looking at ourselves in a different way, because what's that person reflecting back to us, right? And so there's so many ways to look at it and kind of explore it. And one of the other things I was thinking of, well, you were saying that was like rewriting the story. This weekend I had kind of a little situation like that, where this person just gave me a nugget of medicine that I didn't even know I needed, or, you know, it just came into my field, and I was like, oh, that is medicine, and I'm taking that with me. Because I have been helping a friend out at her coffee shop, and we were closing. I was closing by myself first day working there, and like it's super relaxed, super like fluid. And so there wasn't like a huge understanding of what I needed to be doing. And the way that like I, for a good 10 to 15 minutes, like went to every light switch trying to figure out how to turn these signs off. Like it was so embarrassing. And I just felt bad. I was like, I don't want to bother her. Like, and I didn't want to bother anybody. So I was like, okay, problem solved. I'll just unplug the light. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, plugging it back in is simple enough. Yeah. So the next day, my coworker came in to open and he was like, can I just tell you that I sat there for like 10 minutes, like with the remote that turns them on or off, which when he said that, I was like, the remote.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, I'm just clicking this button. Like, what? Like,
yeah.
Why won't this turn on? And he was like, well, maybe, okay, I'll come back to that. Let me go to the next sign. Click, click, click. He's like, it took me 15 minutes to realize you unplugged them. Like, I just kept clicking the button, being like, surely it'll turn on eventually. Okay. And honestly, we laughed, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that must have been annoying. And he was like, no, I wasn't annoyed at all. I thought it was hilarious. He was like, you know, if you really like get down on the ground, most accidents or mistakes like are just comedy. And he was like, he told me this story about his son spilling some lemonade on his laptop and how like he heard a commotion and comes in the room and his son dumped rice on his computer. Like he dumped the rice
Yes. Okay. Yes.
of it all. And he was like, buddy, this is beyond rice. It's okay. Like,
yeah.
He was like, I wasn't upset because it was just genuinely an accident. And like how hilarious that he was like, the rice, and just like
love the problem solving.
No, it's that. And that's what he said to me about the unplugging the light. He was like, you were just trying to solve a problem. And here I was like, just not even occurring to me. But the medicine was that like most of these things are just actually pretty funny if we take a step back and like don't take ourselves so seriously. And so sometimes like challenges or mistakes or like silly things where, because like when he said that, I was like, oh, I cannot even tell you how many times I've been so upset or like annoyed or inconvenienced by something coming in or something happening that wasn't like how I anticipated it happening or outside of like my what I was prepared for, that I, instead of just being like, okay, and moving on, or like being like, that's actually really funny, like I got angry or I was frustrated or I was like, oh, like this always happens. And that was medicine. And so like my whole point, was that a tangent? Absolutely. But my point is that sometimes it's like, how do we rewrite like a pattern where we've shown up one way or like we're used to like this specific reaction, and like what changes when we just like show up or look at it differently?
And knowing too, like you have the opportunity to do that at any time. Like you can always create new patterns, write new stories for your life, for your experiences, for your body, all of that. And knowing too, like as you're going through that process, like in this example of like looking at it as kind of like comedy and it's funny and what can I learn from this and how can I take that going forward, you might find yourself trying to like create that new pattern and then also sometimes falling back into old patterns.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're not quote unquote healed from something. Like it just is. It's part of the human experience.
100%. Yes.
One of the things that was coming up for me when you were talking about like how we want like the easy solution of like cutting people out of our life or cutting out situations, like eliminating all possible triggers, which again, yes, sometimes that's necessary to do. But in this example or this thing that was coming up for me is sometimes people will get almost like addicted to not experiencing any sort of like upset, discomfort. And so they're constantly trying to be in this quote unquote healed state of like getting rid of the discomfort and like practicing all the nervous system regulation things so that you don't have to experience like the massive discomfort of things like grief or betrayal or sadness or anger or like whatever the discomfort is. And that's, I think, problematic as well. Like it's again part of the human experience to still have triggers show up or to have like hard, uncomfortable emotions be present, and your ability to actually sit with them and like navigate through them as they evolve and change and eventually dissipate. Like they're not going to be there forever. That's the healing in it all. That's what it is. And so I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but I've listened to people who have talked about that before, and I'm like, that's interesting. It's not my experience, but it's interesting to hear people's experience of like, no, actually I got addicted to regulating and healing, and how that's just as damaging.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. It's kind of got me thinking about this thing that I've been moving through or entertaining recently, because I was actually chatting with a friend who just left a really long-term relationship, and we were just kind of sharing our experience and where we're at. And one of the things that's come into my field is that like there's some big life changes that need to happen for me, and like in certain things. And one of the things I keep coming back to when I'm like in contemplation or sitting and journaling, or just like even trying to like orient myself to like, okay, so what is like, how do I do this? How do I move through this? Is this thing where I actually have really found like, it's almost like when we get so ingrained in our comfort zone, like discomfort or like being brave or like getting out of our comfort zone, or even if our comfort zone is not super healthy, right? We can like get in a place where it's kind of like you were just saying, like are addicted to like managing the environment, not experiencing like stress, like I don't want to struggle. I don't want to feel stress. And like no one does, for sure. Like let's just say like people don't wake up in the morning and they're like, you know what I want today? I want to be so fucking stressed out. Okay, I really want that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's happening, but some people, are more, I would say like adapted to it, to where like it's a little bit more comfortable for them, or like you can become addicted to stress, which is a whole other thing. But I kind of have been experiencing this thing where the thought is like, oh, where like a touch of youthful delusion would be nice to like take on the unknown in a way that I just don't feel like, as someone who's almost 30, like when you have an awareness of the world and like you've walked the path for a while, it's a lot harder to be like, yeah, this is, this makes sense, or this is a good idea. And that, just what you've said, kind of made me think of that, like that thing where it can be really comfortable and easy to try to just like mitigate our environment as much as possible, where we get in like this zone of like, where when something comes in, or when we like need to make a change or pivot that like is going to be different, unknown, could be triggering, could be all of these things, that it's like, I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to do that. So then we just are like, actually, I'm actually just gonna continue to be in this place because I can control it. My expectations are met because I have control of my environment. It's almost like trying to like, in a way, like, just mitigate as much as we can, like any discomfort or any of that. And I think that that's kind of speaks to a little bit of this thing where when people are maybe addicted to the healing and the like cutting people off, or whatever, like it actually is kind of like, because it's predictable and like it feels safe, even though it actually could be damaging in its own right, and whatever,
It's like the illusion of safety and like trying to maintain a tight grip of control over your life. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to, is trying to like control every experience, every emotion that you have or you don't have, the people who are in your life or not in your life, like all the things. And that's not great.
No, it's like, what comes to mind about it is like, it's trying to do an experiment without variables.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, we can control and predict the environment because there's no variables. And if you eliminate all variables, i.e. people, work, whatever,
Yes.
then because the variables are what we can't predict.
Yeah.
And like, it's just that.
And that's just like going against the human experience. So don't do that. If you're doing that, like really consider why. Why is it that I want to control so many things? Why is it that I want to like not experience these emotions or sensations in my body or be around these people? Like why is it that I'm trying to like have so much control over all of this?
Yeah. And also, like, is it keeping me safe or is it keeping me from my life? Because I think that, like, the best part about the unknown is that's where possibility exists. Like, truly, we're
Yeah.
never gonna like have something unpredictably happen in a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
And, in getting curious with the whys of those things, like, also like the what am I trying to stay safe from, and is it actually working for me, or is it keeping me from, like, because like one of the most magical parts about being human is experiencing like the unpredictable things and having the like unexpected joy and the unexpected like um, like compliments or connections or whatever come into our field. And if we're so focused on like kind of almost like tunnel vision on something,
Yeah.
it's hard to like welcome those in or even notice when they're happening to us.
Yes. Because
And
you're so
so,
focused on your plan.
yes, and that's just it. It's like that's where the magic really like exists. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's like one of my favorite parts of the human experience. If I could talk today, what is happening? It's just the unknown.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Um, and I think there's like a lot of misconceptions around what healing actually is. And I think we've talked about this like early on in our episodes, but like here we are at episode 18,
I know. What in the world?
17 or
What?
18. I don't know because
Sounds
it's going to depend how we arrange things.
yeah.
Okay. But
Crazy.
it is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about some of these misconceptions of like what it actually is, like the destination oriented, like you feel like you have to achieve this thing and then you've like fully arrived and you're like so, I don't know, enlightened or like whatever
Yeah.
it is that you're like trying to achieve there. But that's again, it's just not how it is. And maybe it is on like these small levels of like, okay, I really like overcame this really big thing in my life or like this big trauma that I experienced. Did a ton of like work and healing on that thing. But there's going to be other things. There are going to be other things that we experience in our life that are going to require, again, like retreating inward or going inward and like going on some sort of a journey. And so it's just, I think we just want to stress like it's not a one time thing
No.
ever. It's not like do this protocol or take this thing or like go to this retreat or like whatever it is and that's like this
That's it.
that's it. It's just not it.
No, there's no magic pill. And like, I think we all wish, and to some degree, like there's maybe a piece of us that like would love that, but also I invite like the curiosity and the connection to like, what about the parts of me that actually like love to learn and are hungry for experience and like want to just like
Yeah.
really like revel in the human experience. And the reality is it's like healing happens in circles, not in straight lines. And I feel like I like if there's one thing I've learned in the last year, it's that healing happens in circles.
Mm-hmm.
You can revisit something 100 times
Mm-hmm.
before like the medicine from it is gathered and like what you needed to learn and gain from it is gathered. You can visit it once and be like, that was enough for me. I'm good. You know what I mean? And there's no map, there's no thing that like determines what that timeline looks like,
Yeah.
other than just like our willingness to like move through it and try to move through it like with intention and as consciously as possible. And knowing that there are going to be moments where we don't do that perfectly, and having grace with ourselves, I think is like such an important part of it. And like something that is like coming forward for me right now is like the seasons of it. there have been seasons of life where I'm super regulated, like grounded in, have immense capacity to handle challenges, and I'm showing up in a way that's like congruent and a reflection of my heart. And there have been seasons of life where I'm like, who just did that? That's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like someone, it's okay. She should be institutionalized. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's also like a really big part of this is like it's all seasonal, it's all cyclical.
Yeah.
And so there will be phases where like even if you've like seemingly done the work. I mean, I'm working through this right now in therapy. Like I'm not even kidding. This is actually,
Mhm.
I don't think I anticipated any of this coming up when we started filming this. But I'm like, oh, this is what I'm working on right now because it's like this concept of but we've been here before. Like, shouldn't I know this by now? Or shouldn't I have completed this lesson? Like, why?
Mhm.
And the reality is, like, the why is there was more to learn.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's it. Like, that's like, it doesn't have to be like, we don't have to go into that even like deeper and figure out like, well, why was there more to learn?
It's just like there was. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking too, just in terms of like this seasons of healing. Of sometimes you might be like the little example of like finding the humor and things, like that can be such a piece of medicine that you can take with you and like integrate into these areas of life that could, that might be calling for more attention or more intentionality. And that's like a little example, And then there could be these bigger seasons of life where you're like, okay, I'm going to therapy or I'm going to this big retreat or this experience because because I know that it has something for me. So big or small scale, like it's going to look different for everyone and in every season of life as well. I think like it's not going to be there's no one way to like package this.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And that's just what like that's what it is to be human, right? Like I think sometimes levity, like bringing a little bit of humor or a little bit of just like I take myself pretty seriously. And so I'm saying this not only to our listeners, but to myself. Like, we can bring a little bit of light to like life and like a little bit of joy and a little bit of like humor and just like lightheartedness to our lives. Because if we don't,
mhm,
like things are heavy enough,
mhm,
you know? And
yeah,
so trusting and like just being like, okay, I didn't get it perfect that time. Or maybe it's like, hey, I really like how I did that.
mhm,
And I would like to do more of that. But
yeah,
either way, just being like, okay, like kind of bringing like a little bit less pressure, I think, to certain situations so that we don't get caught in the trap of like, well, of judging or shoulding on ourselves of like, well, I should be, or I should have, or I should know this, or I thought I was healed. Like, what is that?
mhm,
The reality is like, no. And you know what? Different levels, one of my favorite sayings, every level there's a new devil. Like
mhm,
every level of life there is a new devil to face and
yeah,
overcome. And that's just like facts.
yeah, it's
Pa-
the reality.
parenting
Mhm,
will break you open in a way that I haven't even had kids yet. And the parenting journey I've been on,
yeah,
I say this to my sister all the time. I'm like, dude, I'm so scared. Like,
mhm,
because I already get faced with some of it, just like the proximity I have to her and like
yeah,
being such an integral part of her life.
mm,
Um, it's been really interesting because like, girl, I literally have to sometimes be like, well, I found a trigger today and not like today, but like, I always text or call her and I'm like, literally, I'll be like in tears, like, I fucked up again and I'm not doing parenting perfectly and I'm so sorry. And she's like, God, I feel she's probably like, dude, it's fine. Like,
yeah,
but she's literally like, it's okay. You're not going to get it perfect every time. And like,
yeah,
even when you have kids, you're not going to get it perfect every time. And I'm like, thank you. And then I'm like, also send me an invoice. I'll pay for your kids' therapy. That's my fault. I'm just kidding. But I'm serious because it's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's real. Like there are just different levels of life that bring up new things in us. And so it doesn't matter how healed or how like enlightened or how in touch you really are in the moment, like
Yeah,
stuff's going to come up.
it's always going to come up. And I think too, the idea of like quote unquote healing, but being able to just like look at things with like having the insight and being like, oh man, I'm like not doing this perfect today. And being able to just recognize that and then to take that as information to like use going forward. Like, how can I maybe do better in the future? How can I do this differently?
Yes.
Versus just like going through life if you have never even considered working on yourself. Like, that would be a little rough. I saw this thing recently, like hot girl summer.
Yes.
Okay. But apparently there's this thing that's like therapy bro summer, like encouraging like men to like go work on themselves.
Okay, I'm obsessed.
Yeah. So and then there's like, I think there was like some little research stuff around like women thinking men are like so much more attractive when they actually like go to therapy or like work on themselves in some way. And it is more attractive, like for humans in general, to like actually be introspective and to work on yourself and to recognize like, yeah, I have some improvement to make. And I'm like actively working on just like being a better human for myself, for people around me. Like,
100%.
we all need more of that.
Oh, we need more of that. And you know what? Like, that's goals. Like, when you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, it is more attractive. And also, like, there's something about being able to connect with a human. Like, if you're someone who's like a deep person or doing the work or like interested in expansion, trying to be in a partnership with someone who's not, that's really hard. And also, just like based on my own trauma, don't use therapy as a weapon. And
No.
like, if it's great if you're going to therapy, but you have to be learning something. It can't just be to like get your like stamp on your card that like I went to therapy. See,
Yeah.
we need integration.
Yes. Integration, not weaponization.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that for you guys. Therapy bro summer. That's hilarious.
I know.
Good for the guys though.
I know. The trending hashtags. So funny.
You know what I've been seeing a lot of is like the summer I turned pretty is like but it's like the summer I went to therapy or the summer I like broke out of toxic masculinity or whatever. I also saw one that said the summer I lost my shit. And I said, same babe. Oh gosh. Yeah. I've had a couple of those summers, but that's fine. That's so funny though. But I do love that. And I think that like we should normalize to a degree. I think it has been normalized, but like normalize it more. Men like loving mental health.
Also women. The more I talk to people in my life, I've learned that people still very much think of therapy as like you go to therapy when something's like real fucking wrong with you. Like you got like a diagnosis that like really needs intense therapy or like you're crazy or like whatever the thing is. And I'm here to tell you, Alicia's not crazy.
She's lying.
Oh no.
Oh my
God. Yes. So, but that was really interesting for me to hear because I think for some of us, hello, Burke.
Welcome.
I think it's easy for us to, like, when we're in it, like, we've both been to therapy many times on and off over the years. And so it's easy to just think of it as like, no, this is actually just like really healing and supportive and like nice to have different perspective. But for people who maybe aren't deep in that, they view it as something that's like, you only go if you have like real big issues. So
yeah, that's so interesting. I love that you just shared that because like for our listeners, maybe somebody like listens to this podcast and thinks, sorry, my mic is moving a bit because Burke has joined the show. Somebody could be listening and thinking to themselves like, yeah, that's me. Like I have craved that, or like I really would like to have that supportive environment or whatever, but the stigma around like what going to therapy means or like what this journey even looks like or means for people. And I also think like, you know, there have been times in my life where therapy has just served as like a safe space to like unpack. Nothing was like seemingly wrong in the moment or whatever. And And there's like never going to be a moment where like okay, I won't say that. Let me backtrack for a second because like sometimes finding the right fit or a therapist that's like really good does take time.
Yes. And be okay with firing your therapist and finding a new one. Like shop
Yes.
around.
Like if it's not working, it's like dating. And
Mm.
seriously, if there is not like a connection and a vibe, like you should seriously don't keep
That's
going
literally like the number one predictor of like therapy outcomes is like the rapport and connection that you have
with your therapist.
Yeah, so important.
And I wish more people were like okay with that like process because I feel like a lot of people do settle.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they're like, well, I stopped going because it like just wasn't like it wasn't the
Yeah.
person. And then they kind of abandon the idea or like the journey because like, well, that was hard. And it's like, I totally get that. That's valid and I respect it. And also like sometimes a little hard work is like what it takes to get to like that next to find that thing that is the medicine you need or the person you need to walk the journey with you.
Yeah.
And so I love that we're like talking about this right now because I can like I know a couple people in my life who had that experience of like, well, I went, it wasn't a good connection and like I kept going for like 5 sessions or whatever, and then I just was like, yeah, this isn't like going anywhere, I'm not getting anything out of it, or like it truly was just like a mismatched personality or something.
Yeah.
And then they like abandon ship and they don't go over again, and that's
Yeah.
but then what's happens is on the other end of that they're still like, but I also still have all this stuff I'm carrying and I didn't really actually get anything, like I didn't make any progress. And so I would say within like the first 2 sessions, if it feels off, like don't go back, like find someone else. I know it is uncomfortable and it takes being brave, but like it's actually worth it. And so that's like a huge piece of this too. But yeah, that's so interesting to think that like, and maybe it's also generationally. I think we are fortunately like part of a generation where we're pretty like, for women, I'm not going to speak for all of the men in this generation, but I will happily speak for all of the women. I'm just kidding. But I think that like we have healthy like understanding, and at least the language is like part of our, our like reality. And so it's like maybe less intimidating to go seek out that help.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that
it's been normalized, I think, a lot more over the last, I mean, yeah, for our generation for sure, but I think even more so over the last like 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
It's very, I think, pretty normalized. But again, there might be people out there who are still like, who don't feel like that. So that's our experience. But yeah, I think being open to it, like being open to the process of healing, and maybe that's not working with a therapist for you if you're listening. Maybe it's finding a coach for support, a mentor, finding communities that you just feel are really healing for you. I don't know. It looks different for everyone.
It really does.
Open to the process.
Absolutely. I love that. And wow, how many times have I said absolutely? I love that. Anyway,
I know when we watch these back, we're like, wow, we say that phrase a lot.
We literally do. We literally do. It's crazy. But as you were saying that too, I was thinking about like, the things that feel supportive, like coaching or therapy, or even like there can be activities like that feel supportive, whether that be yoga or meditation or painting or pottery, like going and working with your hands, like finding something that feels supportive. Obviously, it might not be like the talk through that you need, or like be the like sometimes some things really do need intentional unpacking and discussion and reworking and rewiring. But it's kind of bringing to mind like what you said at the beginning about in your book that you were reading, the what feels good and supportive, and bringing that in. And so like maybe the yoga feels really good and supportive, maybe some activity or something like feels really good and supportive, and that is also part of this journey.
Yeah, living like your most authentic self, exploring different things that you love in the world, that you love about yourself, like all of that is part of it. And like things like working with your hands and being creative, like healing and therapy doesn't always come in the form of talk therapy, like talking it out with someone. Sometimes it's literally like working with your hands and being creative and expressing yourself in a different way. And that's equally important.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, moving your body, like all of these things can just really like support the holistic. health of you. And then that also helps, you know, helps you show up better, helps you process better, helps like in those moments when we are triggered or something comes into our field, we have like a little bit greater capacity because if we're always on E or we're always in fight or flight or whatever, right? Like insert whatever state you're in here, like it can be really hard to show up with presence and
Yeah.
intention. And just for everyone listening, like we've really, I feel like, emphasized in this episode is a journey, and we are human, and part of the human experience is experiencing all of this. And even therapists, coaches,
Mhm.
everybody alike, like they have therapists, they have coaches. We have these things because we all need it, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
No one's perfect. No one's fully healed. No one's fully arrived. Like, we all need support. We're not meant to do this alone.
no. And that, like, that brings me back to like the thought of like reaching our highest good as well. Like, if we didn't need these things, like if we were just able to like get to our highest good, like right off the bat, like more people would be doing that, you know, more
Mhm.
people would be arrived. And so just trusting that like all the steps we take are intentional and meant
Yeah.
and lead to that overall journey. Yeah,
It's
cute.
beautiful. Anything else? I feel like that's a beautiful place to end.
That is a beautiful place to end. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening today. We love you and adore you. And don't forget, you can send us your questions. If you want coaching on anything, in our last episode, we kind of dove into some of that, but exactly like, don't forget to ask us any questions you have. Maybe you've heard us talk about something and you're like, oh, I want to hear Kayla share more about that. Or I
Mhm.
want to hear Alicia not make any sense a little bit more. I'm just kidding. But seriously, yeah, write in anything you need coaching on or anything like that. The forms are uh, in the show notes below. And we can't wait to talk to you guys next week.